Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Tuesday, September the 16th, and welcome to our commentary. Well, I guess as I speak to you right now, which is roughly 1 o'clock Central Time, they're going to be formally charging this young man in Utah with the murder of Charlie Kirk. I don't know all the details. I'm sure it'll come out later or later in the afternoon. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But look, I think it's important to get the trial started. It's going to take a while, of course. You got to get a jury and all that kind of stuff. But it's important that we get it started. For me personally, and again, this is just looking at it from the outside. For me personally, the most important thing is, was there anybody else involved? You hear all these things flying around in the internet, and I tend to be skeptical of all these things until I actually have a confirmation. But I think for me, that's the most important thing is, was there somebody else involved? Did somebody else either put up money or train him? I don't know. Was somebody else involved? Was it more than that? Again, I've heard all kinds of rumors, and I'm going to keep it as rumors for the time being. I don't even want to say anything about it until I have further evidence. But it's important that we get this legal proceeding underway, because what this young man did or is accused of doing was a pretty terrible thing, to take out Charlie Kirk, and not just Charlie Kirk, the public figure, but obviously a father, a husband, and everything else. So let's get that judicial proceeding on the road. The other story, I just literally found out about this in the last couple of hours, is that Robert Redford passed away. I had no idea that he was 89 years old. I guess, 89. I had no idea. He was born in 1936. So, 89 years old. Had no idea that he was 89 years old. And thought he was a lot younger than that, frankly. Maybe it's because I remember him from the movies and had not seen him recently. But, he made a bunch of movies, of course, that were very popular. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kiss. I don't know if that was his first movie, but that's one I remember. The other one where he and Paul Newman were competing against that gang of criminals or whatever it was. I can't think of the name of that one right now. I was thinking about looking that up, but I can't remember. That was a good movie, by the way. That was a really good movie. And then The Way We Were, that was kind of a big romantic movie of the mid-1970s. But my favorite movie by Robert Redford, the one that I, as they say, the one that I would pay to have in my collection of movies, is The Natural, which is based on a book. It's about a baseball player. It's about an aging baseball player who comes back for one more time to do something in the major leagues. And, he hits that home run, dramatic home run, to win the game, I think win the pennant. And then, of course, that great sound, the musical background when he hits that home run. I mean, that was just absolutely incredible. That was one of the best movies I've ever seen. So that's the one that I remember most, The Natural. That's the one that, as I say, I don't, I'm not the kind of guy that buys movies or anything like that. I watch them, whenever I want, but I don't buy or collect them. But if I had to buy one for a collection, it would be that one, The Natural. But there's another movie that he was connected to that a lot of people don't know this, but there was a movie that came out in the early 90s called A River Runs Through It, which is a couple of young people growing up. I believe it was Montana in the 1900s, very early 1900s. And it's the story of the young man, and whose brother, I think, ends up getting killed or something like that. But it was such a fantastic movie, those two brothers growing up in Montana going fly fishing. That was the whole thing about the movie, was going fly fishing. That was a great movie. And I don't remember who acted in that movie. I don't know any of the actors in the movie, but I can tell you that that movie was one of the best movies that I have ever seen. A River Runs Through It. and it came out in the early 1990s. And I had forgotten until I read it a couple of hours ago that he was the producer, or at least he was the person behind that movie. And that, again, that is just an absolutely great movie. A river runs through it. Just a great movie. So rest in peace, Robert Redford. He was very popular in his prime. That's all I can tell you. And I guess his prime must have been in the 70s when he was making all kinds of movies, and lots of people were paying to watch him act. He was really a popular guy, to say the least. Well, I have a post over at the American Thinker today talking about the enforcement of immigration laws, whether it's deporting people or whether it's arresting people, whatever the case may be. And that the Trump administration has actually decided to enforce immigration laws. And I'm glad they're doing it. I think immigration laws have to be respected. And the problem that we had under President Biden is that we kind of let those things lapse. And nobody was really enforcing immigration laws. And I've seen some of this with my own eyes, by the way, because I've known people who get these letters from judges, or they'll talk to me and they'll say, oh, I got this letter from a judge, I didn't qualify for asylum or whatever I was requesting. And they've asked me, what should I do? And I always say, well, follow whatever the letter says. I'm not going to give you legal advice, but if the letter says you have to leave the country, well, you're going to have to leave the country. Well, apparently there's like 2 million people in that group of people who have letters from the courts saying, okay, we gave you a due process, you didn't pass, so it's time for you to leave the country. And there's, as I say, almost 2 million people who fit that category, and they should leave. They should leave. So we need to enforce these laws. We need to make it very clear. This is also true, by the way, of people who come in on a visa, on a tourist visa, or on a student visa. They've got to know that if you're a student, you're here on a student visa, and you do something that violates your visa, you can be deported. And if you overstay your visa, and you're going to be deported. That's just the way it is. That's the way it works in every country, which is what I point out in the article that I wrote. I mean, that's what every country does that. Every country has immigration laws. Every country has rules that say this is how you can come in, and this is how you can stay. It's not up to the person. It's up to the country that you're visiting or where you're staying. They're the ones who decide, what exactly is going to happen to you. So I'm glad that the Trump administration is enforcing immigration laws. I'm very disappointed that some Democrats have decided to play, the opposition game for the sake of being in the opposition. And they have all these silly nicknames for ICE, like Gestapo and all this kind of thing. I think it's very unfortunate that they use words like that. But, the laws have to be enforced. That's just the way it is. Immigration laws have to be enforced. And if you're in the country and you're not, and you're violating our immigration laws, the United States has every right to take action against you in much the same way any other country does. I mean, go around the world and try violating immigration laws, and you're going to see that you cannot do it. You simply cannot do it. So I have that post over at the American Thinker today. I've got another one coming out tomorrow, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, about what is happening in Brazil. In Brazil, the former president, Bolsonaro, has been found guilty. And it's crazy what's happening down there, because everybody is saying that the Supreme Court is biased against them, down there, that is. And it has divided the country bitterly. And we're going to be I need to find an expert on Brazil that I can bring on and do a video with that person. But what's happening down in Brazil is very scary. And it's sort of the Brazilian version of lawfare, what was done here against President Trump. And that's very, very bad, because Brazil is, after all, the 8th largest economy in the world. And when you're that big and you have that much foreign investment and your court system is that corrupt, that's not good if you're a foreign company investing in the country. So it is a very bad situation, to say the least. And as I say, I'm going to try to find some friends of mine who are very familiar with Brazil, and we'll try to talk about what's happening what's happening down in Brazil. FBI Director Patel was before the U.S. Senate today. Honestly, these hearings have become clown shows. That's what they are. They're not really intended to do anything other than give some senators their 5 or 10 minutes of airtime so that they can turn around and put out these little edited clips on X or wherever they put them. I think they've become a waste of time. There's very little you learn when you're watching these things other than the Democrats hate Patel and the Republicans are going to defend him. That's basically what it comes down to. And that's, I think we need better than that as citizens. I think we need a little bit better than that as citizens of the country when they have hearings. I mean, I think it's totally legitimate for the U.S. Senate to have a hearing with the FBI director. It's a totally legitimate thing to do. But my gosh, I mean, as I said, these things become clown shows. And you're sitting there watching it. I was watching a little bit of it at lunchtime, and I was saying, this is a clown show. This is not even a hearing. I mean, it's, I don't know. You can see some of the clips. I'm sure they'll be uploaded during the course of the day, and you can see for yourself what a clown show it is. Well, let me leave you today with a happy independence message to our friends in Mexico. It was on this day, I'm not sure what year, whether it was I think it was 1810 that Mexico, or 1821, one of those two. Maybe you can look it up, but I think either 1810 or 1821 that Mexico declared its independence. They call it El Grito, and every year on Mexican Independence Day, the current president of Mexico goes out, and waves the flag and yells "Viva Mexico" and that kind of thing. It's an entertaining thing to watch. When I lived in Mexico, I remember watching one time when, at the time, Vice President Bush went down to Mexico. He was a special guest of the president at that time. I guess that must have been 81 or 82 when he was vice president. And he went down there and he participated. And, it's an announcement. It's like, the president of Mexico goes out in this balcony with the flag and he says, "Viva Mexico." It's very entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch. And that's what they did, I believe, last night. I believe it was last night or early morning of the 16th when they do that. Well, thank you for listening. Everybody have a wonderful day. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.